Hey everybody, welcome back. Hollywood Pizza here, and we've got a pretty awesome deck list for you today. We're going to be playing some Abazan Eldrazi. The new Explorer Anthology 2 just dropped, so we want to make sure that we get some gameplay videos for you here with some of the new cards and try out some decks that weren't available to explore previously. So let's go ahead and jump right into the deck list here to help us ramp into our later spells or kind of get a little bit of some opening here. We have 4 Elvish Mystics and 3 Llanowar Elves. They just 1 mana 1/1s. I can tap for green mana. They help us get to our 2 and 3 drops here, which are very, very important. We have Eldrazi Displacer, which for a colorless and for 3 colorless overall, you can exile another target creature, then return to the battlefield tap under its owner's control. It's a 3 mana 3/3, and then we also have Reshaper, which is a 3 mana 3/2. When it dies, you reveal the top card of your library. You can put it onto the battlefield if its mana value is 3 or less, or also goes into your hand, which it's really good, essentially kind of just like a Bloodbraid type of effect when it dies, or it just straight puts the card in your hand. And then our other Eldrazi in the deck, we have Thought-Knot Seer. 4 mana 4/4. When it comes into play, target opponent reveals their hand. You choose a non-land card from it, it gets exiled, and then when this card leaves the battlefield, target opponent draws a card. So with the help of these Llanowar Elves, the Elvish Mystics, we're able to get to our Eldrazi Displacers on turn 2, or our Thought-Knot Seer on turn 3. And some other big plays that we have here on turn 3, if we do end up getting some of these elves out, is going to be Karn the Great Creator and Hedron Archive. So Hedron Archive, pretty simple card. 4 colorless for an artifact that taps for 2 colorless. And then you can pay 2 colorless and sack it to draw 2 cards. So good early ramp to some of your other bigger spells that we'll get to in a moment, or you can sack it later in the game to draw some cards. Karn is essentially in a lot of different decks. The main deck that you're actually going to see this is in Mono Green Devotion. So the big thing about the Mono Green Devotion decks is that they're able to obviously generate a ton of mana, get Karn down, and just start doing a lot of different things. But in this deck, we actually have Forsaken Monument to help us kind of go off a little bit with Karn. So Forsaken Monument is a 5 colorless artifact. It's legendary. Colorless creatures get a boost. They get +2/+2. Whenever you tap a permanent for a colorless, you get an additional colorless. And whenever you cast a colorless spell, you gain 2 life. So essentially beefing up our Matter Reshapers, Eldrazi Displacers, Thought-Knot Seers, anything in the sideboard that we can grab with Karn that's a creature. And on top of that, it's really good with our creature lands, with the Mishra's Foundry and the Mutavaults, where it's able to give those +2/+2 and kind of just make them a lot bigger. Another key element to this card specifically is that you gain 2 life whenever you cast a colorless spell. It definitely helps you either stay in the game or kind of turn the corner where you start casting your cards, gaining some life. The Eldrazi's artifacts are all colorless spells, so just a really, really powerful card that kind of helps bind the deck together. Because once you have all that mana as well, you can kind of start going off with Eldrazi Displacer by either blinking your opponent's creatures to kind of get them out of the way to come in for damage, doing an end step, things like that, or you can also blink your own Thought-Knot to essentially lock your opponent out of some good draws. Even though they redraw a card with Thought-Knot, you're still always going to get the best card out of their hand when it comes back into play. So you can kind of set up like a upkeep or draw step stop for that interaction there. To help round out the deck in our top heavy spots, we've got 6 mana and 8 mana. Ujin's 6 mana one kind of just helps reduce the cost of your spells by making them cost 2 less. And then you can make some threats, which essentially draw your cards when they die. And then we also have the -3, which is just going to destroy any permanent. That's 1 or more colors. And then we have Ujin the Spirit Dragon, kind of just like a catch-all board wipe, or kind of just like a late game finisher. Just 2 really awesome cards to spend all the mana that we might be generating here with the Forsaken Monument. On our sideboard here, we have a lot of the regular cards that you're going to see in the Karn strategy. We have the Tormod's Crypt, Grafdigger's Cage, Pithing Needle, Soul Guide Lantern, Meteor Golem, Cityscape Leveler, Treasure Vault, Shadow Spear, Stone Brain, Unlicensed Hurt, Circuit Mender, Karn Silex, Forsaken Monument, our 4th one, Sky Sovereign, Console Flagship, and Godfarer Statue. A lot of these cards do different things. The Tormods, Grafdiggers, Soul Guides. We also have the Unlicensed Earth. Like, those cards are really, really good against any type of graveyard strategies. Pithing Needle is just good against Planeswalkers, or can also be really good against creature lands. Sometimes you just want to shut off their Den of the Bugbear or Hive of the Eye Tyrant, considering we don't really have too much interaction outside of the Go for the Throats. So just a really, really strong card overall. Meteor Golem and Cityscape Leveler can essentially destroy any permanents that it could be problematic. You could make the argument that maybe you want to run Another Cityscape Leveler over the Meteor Golem. I can kind of see that. As well as maybe even running some Ulamogs in the main deck, maybe like 2 or 3. And I can even see an argument for a second Ujin the Spirit Dragon. Treasure Vault's just really good because it gives you access to colored mana if you need it, and kind of just ramps you up pretty hard. Shadow Spear for the aggro matchup, Stone Brain for decks like Mono Green or Control decks where you can kind of just take out their win conditions. We also have One of Circuit Mender to gain us some life against aggro decks or redraw a card. Silex kind of in the same boat where it just exiles all permanents in play, depending on how much mana we have. Skyship, just a solid card overall, and Godfarer's Statue to essentially kind of just help grind out the opponent, make their spells cost a lot more mana. We didn't get to go over the lands, but we have 4 Cave Colos, 4 Land and War Wastes, and 4 Brushlands. Full playsets of all those pain lands to essentially help cast all of our colorless cards that actually require colorless mana. And on top of that, make sure that we cast our Elvish Mystics and Land and War Elves on turn 1, and we have enough mana for Go for the Throat. Additionally, we do have 4 Bloomy March, just a really, really strong card overall to kind of get our Mystics down. Even though it obviously doesn't have that much of a heavy impact with Forsaken Monument, it's really good to not take that much damage early in the game. One of Haship Oasis, which we can use to pump something up if we need to, or cast our Land and Warrows and still give us that option of having colorless mana for our other spells as well. In colorless lands, we have one of Blast Zone and one of Mishra's Foundry. We did make these changes later here. We added 2 Field of Ruin to help us against any type of mono green devotion deck that may be running around, or just creature lands in general. And we also have 4 Mutavaults. The Foundry is actually really great because it can help pump up a Mutavault that's on the attack. And Mutavault's just phenomenal, same as a Foundry, where they kind of just get bigger from the monument and help give you a little bit more of that reach later in the game, or sometimes can just kill like a Liliana or a Chandra just because you have these down and your opponent might just tap out, use it to kill one of your creatures, and then you can kind of just get rid of their Planeswalker rather easily. But overall, this deck's still a little bit more of like a work in progress. We definitely have a lot of different things that we can do with the deck, and a lot of different like strategies that you can kind of do instead of the one that I'm doing even. The main reason I actually went for the Land of Worlds and the Elvish Mystics is because the Eldrazi themselves are a lot more powerful when you're able to get them out earlier in the game, and the Elves definitely help us do that, all while being able to cast some of our other big spells as well in the deck. So overall, I had a blast playing this deck. Definitely give it a shot. I know the Anthology is pretty new, and it's definitely been able to add quite a lot to the Explorer format and make it more diverse. So let's go ahead and jump into some games. Alright, going to be on the draw, pretty keepable hand. We've got our Elf on turn 1, and can maybe ramp into this Forsaken Monument as well, but we end up drawing the Matter Reshaper, so we'll get the Land of War, potentially jam this Matter Reshaper on 2. We're up against Mono Red. They have a Soulscar Mage down, coming in for a point of damage, potentially more, just 1 right now. They get a second Den of the Bugbear down, and a Burning Tree Emissary. Get some more mana into Electrostatic. And we're going to play our Blast Zone into this Matter Reshaper here. Pass a turn back. Let's go ahead and see what the opponent has for us. And they have a Shock to get rid of the Matter Reshaper. Let's see if we can hit a permanent to get onto the battlefield. Fortunately, we just hit a Thought-Knot Seer, but still a card that we can play on the following turn. We are going to take 8 damage here. That's quite a lot, going down to 10. Alright, so we have our land, our Mutavault here. And we're just going to play a Thought-Knot Seer. See what our last card for the opponent is. Unfortunately, just a Castle Embereth, so can't get rid of it. And all we really have right now is this 4/4 to block. Our opponent has a lot of damage coming in here. And a Robber of the Rich activation as well. So we'll go ahead and block the Robber. They're going to play this Land of War Elf on their second main phase. Okay, we do hit a land, but it does come into play tapped, unfortunately. And we have a Land of War Elf, and we would have to take a point of damage for this Displacer, so I'd rather just block with the Mutavault. And it looks like our opponent's going to go ahead and pump up the squad here. And I believe that we might just be dead no matter what we block. Let's see. So yeah, we can block both of the 3 powers. Go down to 1, but then we won't really be able to cast any of our cards here, really, seeing as how the Displacer is a colored card. And it looks like our opponent just has a Shock anyway, so we end up just dying either to the Shock or to all the triggers that are essentially making their creatures bigger. Not going to make any changes to sideboard. Let's go ahead and jump right into game 2 here. Going to be on the play this time. Pretty decent hand. We got some elves And a Thought-Knot's here we can play, so we're going to start off with this Bloomy Marsh into an Elf. And our opponent's going to draw for the turn. They have a Mountain into Soulscar Mage, so a really good start still again from them. They have a 1-drop. We just have this Elvish Mystic, but we do have Blast Zone in case we do need it later in the game here. And potentially just have this Thought-Knot, Seer, or maybe even the Karn. Opponent's going to hit us for some damage. And they have a Light Up the Stage. Maybe they're trying to hit some lands, maybe they just want to get through their deck. Either way, they do hit a land, a really good one, Den of the Bugbear here. And a second Soulscar Mage, 2 followed up. And we have a Bloomy Marsh that we draw. We'll go ahead and just Thought-Knot here. Okay, yep, we get to play the Bloomy Marsh first, so let's go ahead and Thought-Knot. And maybe take the Chandra. Okay, we end up taking the Play with Fire here, mostly because it's a pretty cheap spell that can pump up their creatures and just deal us a ton of damage. If they just play Chandra, they're just going to have to tap out for it. Okay, going for the Soulscar Mage, the Burning Tree Emissary, and the Infantry here. Oh, yep, another Burning Tree into Infantry, which is really good. They have a lot of attackers, but that Blast Zone that we mentioned earlier is going to be really, really good in this game, in this matchup in general. And we have a Thought-Knot here that we're just going to go ahead and cast. See if we can hit a card out of our opponent's hand. Okay, yep, we hit that Chandra there, so that's gone. And we're going to pass back, so we're still at 19. We have some pretty decent bodies on the battlefield. Unfortunately, our opponent redraws a Chandra here, which is really good. And they're going to uptick, deal us a point of damage. Can't really use the mana, no good attacks. We draw a Haship Oasis. And we're just going to pass. I think we're going to put a charge counter on this Blast Zone. So then that way we can just kill all their 2-drops. They're going to get a Rob of the Rich down. They have like an okay attack if they really wanted to get some damage in, but we're still going to be able to kill most of their good creatures. So let's go and put a charge counter on the Blast Zone. That way we can just kill all their 2-drops. Okay, hitting a creature land is really good there. We're just going to do this now. Clear the board a little bit. Play the Foundry and the Karn. Down tick. Potentially just going to go get a Shadow Spear. Okay, we're actually going to uptick here. Kind of protecting it. The opponent can come in with the Den of the Bugbear or maybe cast some spells to try to kill the Karn. So I'd rather get like the maximum uses that I can out of it. Okay, Swift Spear here, so not really much movement from our opponent. Kind of in the same spot. We top deck a removal spell. And now we just have a ton of stuff going on. We can just down tick on Karn. We can get any card that we want. Go get this Leveler. We'll just cast it. Get rid of the Chandra. That way we just get rid of their card advantage. And our opponent's actually just going to concede game 2 here. So no sideboard changes as usual with this deck. And let's see how our game 3 goes here against our opponent. And we are going to be on the draw, so a big disadvantage here. And let's hope that we get a good opening hand. Alright, pretty decent opening hand here. Obviously missing our 3rd land for the Matter Reshaper, but we do have that Go for the Throat, even if we have to take a point of damage. So we're mostly hoping for our opponent to not have a quick start, but they do have the Swift Spear on turn 1. Don't draw our 3rd land yet. Going to start off with the Cave, that way we can cast a Go for the Throat no matter what on the following turn. Still have the Brush land in case we draw an Elf. Okay, looks like our opponent may have another quick start here in game 3 with double Burning Tree Emissary. And they end up just playing a Soulscar Mage. Okay, we hit Mutavault, which is fine. We can get the Mutavault down in case we get a good block somewhere, but it's usually highly unlikely considering they have these Prowess creatures out. Alright, and Wizard's Lightning is going to get us down to 15. 14 if we end up using this Go for the Throat, which we might. Okay, light up the stage. So, yep, just got to let all these resolve. And we can Go for the Throat, the Soulscar Mage, but at the same time, we're kind of just like in this really, really, really rough spot here. And we're going to go down to 7. We can cast as Matter Reshaper, but unfortunately our opponent has Searing Blood, so they can just kill the Matter Reshaper. We won't even get a trigger. They'll deal us 3 damage, and we'll pretty much die on the swing, so Alright, got another match for you here. Not a good hand. Let's take a mulligan. Didn't have any colored sources with the Llanowar Elf. This looks a little bit better. We can cast our Llanowar Elf on turn 1, ramp into a Displacer or Matter Reshaper, and we're able to put one of these cards back. We are on the draw, so mulliganing is mitigated just a little bit here. And it looks like our opponent may be on Mono Green Devotion, which has been a lot more popular with Nick, though, so Elf on their side, Elf on our side. Let's see how this game goes for us here. And opponent potentially gonna ramp. Okay, coming in for the attack. We'll just take it. And looks like they still have the Wolf Willow Haven. We have a Matter Reshaper, which we'll cast first. We can attack with it next turn. We don't care if it dies. Opponent with the Cavalier Thorns, so it looks like that's going to be a card that we're going to be blocking here for sure pretty soon. They do get a Nykthos on the battlefield, which is quite scary. Let's cast this Mutavault on the battlefield. We could Karn. Maybe block the Thorn. So let's do that. Let's downtick. Let's get a Monument, I believe. Yep. And we'll pass the turn back. We can block with the Matter Shaper, maybe ramping into a land or hitting a spell that we'll be able to cast. And it looks like they're just going to attack the Karn with just the Cavalier. Maybe they hit with the Elf. Okay, gonna hit us with the Elf, which is actually quite interesting because if they end up attacking both at Karn, then they can at least get Karn down to 2. So then if we want to use the Karn, it would essentially just die. And we get pretty lucky here. We ramp into a Blast Zone into play. We'll get to untap. We're at 17. So I actually think playing the Monument now is pretty safe. And then we'll get this Mystic down. Obviously, against Mono Green, you know, not really many plays that end up feeling safe. We'll go down tick on Karn. Get the Cityscape Leveler. Replay another Elf on the battlefield. And if our opponent attacks Karn, I think we just let it die here. Okay, unfortunately they have a Seiju for the Forsaken Monument. We don't play any basic lands, so pretty free. Naturalize for our opponent. Not going to block the Karn. We are 1 mana away from being able to cast this Cityscape Leveler. And we get to untap. So we actually hit an Ujin, which is really great. We'll go ahead and just cast this here. And I actually think that it's a lot better to uptick, considering that if we downtick, we'll give our opponent a little bit of some advantage with that Cavalier Thorn. So we don't want to do that just yet. We may end up wanting to do it in the future, though. Okay, opponent with Troll. And it looks like they're just going to make a ton of mana here. 9, 10 mana. Going to recast the Storm Festival from the graveyard. Hitting another Troll and a Nykthos, which is fine. Not anything too crazy. And it looks like they're going to attack the Ujin here. And I think that we just only block the Cavalier. Yeah, we thought about blocking with the Elf, but we changed our mind. So let's block the Cavalier. Let's get this other Ujin back to our hand. We'll get the untap. We hit a Monument, which is fantastic. So you want to use your Llanowar Elves here as well, because they're not going to produce any additional mana off the Monument. So let's get that Monument down. Let's downtick on the Ujin. Killing the Cavalier Thorns this time. They can get back in Nissa. That's really about the only scary thing here. The Storm of the Festival was exiled when it gets cast from flashback, so not feeling too threatened by that. We'll go ahead and play the Cityscape Leveler, destroying one of the Trolls. Even if they get some value from the Troll going to the graveyard, it's not as crazy as, you know, us having a 10/10 Trampler on the battlefield that destroys permanents whenever it attacks. And we can also get down one of these Eldrazi Displacers, take a point of damage. We're at 19, go down to 18, game 2, back up to 20. And things are looking really good for us right now. They can attack the Ujin if they want. Kind of just like a bad attack. They're just going to lose their whole board. If they had a Boseiju, it would be kind of rough for us, but I mean, yeah, we're just able to just kill everything they have. We lose a Ujin, but we have another one in our hand. And let's go ahead and see what the last card is here. Okay, just a Lovestruck Beast, so big beefy body, but not anything that we should be scared of. We top deck a land. It's not bad. Adds a lot more mana. We're able to use this Displacer here, so let's get rid of this token. And then we'll go ahead and blink the Lovestruck Beast as well. It'll come back in tapped. And we still have 6 mana available because of the Forsaken Monument. We're going to come in for at least 15 here. Okay, cast the Ujin as well. Yep, gain some life. May as well make a token. And our opponent's just so behind now. We just have tons and tons of value. The Monument's definitely doing more than what their Nykthos is doing, so this game is definitely working out for us. We'll attack with both the Displacer and the Leveler, destroying their Lovestruck Beasts. We already have 3 blockers back in case something bad were to happen. And we have a 4/4 in case they end up having like a Questing Beast or something like that. They're going to go down to 5, so their next draws really depend on whether or not they're probably going to win this game or come back. Opponent draws for the turn. It's a Forest. And concedes that game 1. So, pretty good game against Mono Green Devotion. No sideboarding here. Probably no sideboarding from our opponent as well. We're going to jump right back into the action. Don't forget, we host 3 tournaments a month. All are free to play. Link in the description below. You can find my content as well. And pretty keepable hand. Let's go and start off with a Llanowar. We have a removal spell and a Thought-Knot Seer that we're going to be able to ramp into early. We have this Mutavault that's pretty much going to play a creature if we really need it to. And that was actually just a phenomenal top deck. Let's get this Brushland down into this Eldrazi Displacer. So we actually have a turn 2 3-drop and turn 3 4-drop. So definitely what you want to be doing with this Eldrazi deck is just getting these powerful creatures out as early as you can. Okay, gonna draw a card here. And let's get this Thought-Knot, see what their best card is. Okay, and all they have is Storm the Festival, so it's a pretty easy grab. And we get to exile it, so no casting from the graveyard. They want to come in for 5, we just take it. Opponent giving us some information here, knowing that we already know the rest of their cards. Fortunately, we don't have any basics in the deck, but right now we still have tons of mana in our hands, so not really a big deal. By them Bosagewing one of our lands there, we'll take the 5. We might be able to attack for more damage. Okay, we hit a Thought-Knot Seer. So one thing to pay attention to is that they do have a Lair of the Hydra in the back there. Now we do get a pretty good attack here. Let's say that they ended up making the Lair creature. We can just blink it with the Displacer, kind of blow them out if they end up double blocking. But let's get this Thought-Knot Seer down. Even though it's not getting a card out of their hand, I really like the fact that we just have some pretty beefy bodies on the battlefield. There's also maybe even an argument for blinking the Thought-Knot Seer on the opponent's draw step to see what cards they have that could be good in their hand, but I like just getting the body down on the battlefield instead. And we just end up drawing a Monument, which is just really huge here. But we just have the go for the throat. So we're going to try to blink this Lovestruck Beast, but fortunately this actually ends up being a really big mistake, especially because the game uses our Cave of Koilos here for the auto tap. We're not able to hold up this go for the throat for the Lair of the Hydra, so bit of a mistake there, kind of give our opponent a full turn, which could end up being bad, but let's see what they have here. So they get a Nykthos down. Okay, generating a ton of mana. So they did top deck a Storm of the Festival, unfortunately. Okay, they hit a Cure and a Llanowar, Elvish Mystic, so not too scary. And they're just going to pass it back. And we have a go for the throat for the Lovestruck Beast. We'll actually just play this Matter Reshaper because it just gives us more beef on the battlefield. And no reason to attack Cure, really. Let's just go for face here, coming in for 11. Opponent's going to make 1 block. Go down to 6, and this game's looking pretty sealed for us here. Not really any board wipes unless they Karn, but then the Silex comes in tapped. And Shaper Sanctuary from our opponent is really, really late. And it's not even a card that actually does anything in this matchup, really. Yeah, I might draw a card off of the Eldrazi Displacer, but at the same time, you can see, like, they tap out and we just blink their creatures and come in for a lot of damage at once. So it's not really too much of a big deal. And looks like our opponent is thinking about how they're going to cast this Storm the Festival from the graveyard. Okay, 9, 10 mana. Looks like they're still deciding. Okay, gonna untap some lands, but you can definitely see the power of this Mono Green Devotion deck, where even though they don't even have that many permanents out on the battlefield, Nykthos is definitely putting in some work with the Kiora. And them still having the Storm the Festival that they're going to be able to cast is pretty scary. I mean, they can just hit 2 cards, like a Karn, anything like that, that could potentially get them back into the game. Now, our opponent doesn't know about the Forsaken Monument, which is just going to be really, really huge here, making all of our creatures bigger than the actual Old Growth Troll. So our opponent definitely using some of their timeouts here. They're going to uptick with the Nissa on the lair. And we'll see if they attack. No reason to attack, I don't think. And it also has Vigilance, which is really nice. Alright, well, our opponent ends up attacking, which seems a bit questionable here. We'll block with the Matter Reshaper. Get a card off the top of our deck. And we just end up hitting a land, which is fine. Just more mana for this Forsaken Monument and the Eldrazi Displacer, so we can just tap both of our opponent's creatures down if we really wanted to. And we'll just go for the Monument play instead. Activate the Mutavault. And come in for damage with everyone. So, able to take down this mono-green matchup, which it's a deck that's been a lot more popular. But as you can see, with the Forsaken Monument, Displacer, Karns, we're kind of just able to overpower them and go over the top of their strategy. So, let's see how our next matchup goes.
This video is brought to you by MagicJank.com, the spiciest cards for your sauciest decks. Buy and sell Magic the Gathering products and gear today on MagicJank.com.
Jumping into some more games here with some Eldrazi. This is definitely a keepable hand. We have 3 lands, a couple removal spells, and our 3-drop Eldrazi's that we'll be able to cast on time. And it looks like we might be up against another Devotion deck here as they start off with the Heart's Desire. Okay, we're actually up against Gruul. Opponent just going to come in for a point of damage, and we'll see if they have a 2-drop. They do not. We hit another one of our Blooming Marshes on time. Our other lands are just colorless, so it doesn't really matter what order we play them in. And they both tap for white, so that Displacer should be coming down. They end up tapping out for this left struck. I think we just kill it with a Go for the Throat, spend our mana, and then play a Displacer. And it looks like that is what their play is going to be. So we'll kill that. Get to untap, play this Cave of Koilos, I believe. Yep, gonna Cave of Koilos and just get a Displacer down, so looking alright. We got an Eldrazi down. Our opponent has had some plays, but the 1/1's not really too threatening, and the Love Strike Beast is already dead. And looks like our opponent has Questing Beast. It's a pretty scary card here. I think we're gonna have to take the 4, go down to 13. Play our land. Let's go for the Throat here. Play a Llanowar off, which makes sure that we get our Forsaken Monument down, or 2 Eldrazi's. Maybe an Eldrazi plus a Displacer activation. All that's still just really, really good here. And our opponent has 5 mana now, so could have a pretty scary play. Okay, just an Anger of the Gods. Pretty acceptable considering we have some other creatures in hand that we can play afterwards. If we top deck a land, we're probably playing this Forsaken Monument. We're at 13. Alright, we didn't hit it, so let's play the Reshaper because... Okay, so we're actually going to go for the Displacer instead. I was going to say the Reshaper, if it dies, it gives us another card, but... Displacer's fine. It still can, blink a creature if need be. It's a 3/3, trades with Bone Crushers, things like that. And it looks like our opponents are going to come in for 1. Pretty sure they have a Bone Crusher here, not going to make a block. And they have a Mystic. And they do have the Bone Crusher, so choosing to not deal us an extra 2 points of damage. Quite interesting there. Let's get this Matter Reshaper down. And now we just have some pretty decent creatures on the battlefield. This Reshaper is going to get us another card that we may want here. Opponent just top decking lands. Kind of a little bit flooded. And we can just play our Monument. So now our creatures are just way bigger. No attack still, we're at 11. We still want to play a little bit more of the control. Mid-range matchup here. Okay, Questing Beast is pretty good. It's the only creature they can attack with, and we have a Matter Reshaper to block. So we're going to go ahead and trade here. Get some value off of this Matter Reshaper. Let's see if it's something that goes to our hand. Alright, ends up being an Elvish Mystic, which just goes on the battlefield, ramps us. We have an Ugin here that we're just going to get to cast, essentially for 3 mana. We also have a Displacer as well. think the correct play would be to use all of our colored mana sources on this Ujin, blowing up the Bone Crusher. And the Ujin also makes sure that we can cast our Matter Reshaper for 1 white mana. Tap the Mystic. Tap one of our colorless lands here. Let's go ahead and get an Ugin down. A down tick on this Bone Crusher. And we'll play an Eldrazi Displacer, our second one. Gain some more life. Things are looking pretty good. We can attack for 5. Not really doing anything too crazy there. And let's see here. I don't think that we want to sideboard. Most of our deck looks pretty decent. Don't really see a world. The difference is in some of these matchups where like they're aggressive, we might want to bring some other cards in, maybe cut some Llanowar Elves, or like against a control matchup, you can definitely see, we want to cut the Go for the Throat, but I think that we'll go ahead and stick with what we've got as we have in the other games as well. And let's go and see what our opponent's going to be up to here. Post sideboard. I do appreciate you hanging out, watching the video. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, bell notification, like, and leave a comment down below. Don't forget, check out our free tournaments, 3 a month, with cash prizes, free to play, in the description below, as well as my content and some other useful links, including the deck. And we're going to be on the draw, considering that we were able to take down game 1. And opponent going to shock a land in, take 2 points for an Elvish Mystic. Our hand is really slow. Let's just get this Mutavault down. Kind of hoping to use that Mutavault maybe to block, maybe to attack. But at the same time, we know that our opponent's going to be a lot more aggressive than us. And they end up getting an Elvish Mystic down and a 3rd Mystic, so a little bit flooded to a certain degree, and their spells were just some elves, so not really too upset with it. Could get this Blast Zone down. Eventually it's just going to blow up all their Llanowar Elves. I think we'd rather keep it a secret and just get this second Mutavault down. I just feel like that's a lot better. And opponent just has a Bone Crusher here. Probably just going to take some damage from these Llanowar Elves, which I'm okay with. We're still at 19. Wow, and they actually don't come in for any damage, which I find quite surprising unless they have an instant speed card or like a flash creature, but they can't Coco. And they didn't have any stops, so I'm still pretty surprised they didn't come in with the Elves. Okay, Matter Reshaper is going to get exiled, unfortunately, from the Flame Blessed Bolt, so no value there. And they're just going to get this Lovestruck Beast down, so opponent definitely has some beef. We're going to go down to 13. We draw a Displacer, which is okay. So opponent can come in for 12. We also have this Blast Zone that we can use to kill all their Elvish Mystics. So that way we're only going to take 4 from the Bone Crusher Giant. And on top of that, we kind of get rid of some of their mana. So let's Blast Zone here. That way they can't come in with the Lovestruck. We'll go down to 9. Off of the Bone Crusher attacking. So still at an okay life total. Opponent did not play another card. Pretty big play here. Definitely an argument for the Hedron. The Karn is actually going to gain us some life, hoping that they just attack into it. We're going to downtick and go grab a boat, because the boat is going to be able to kill the Bone Crusher Giant. And we already have our 5th land in hand, so looking to dodge any 1-drop here, or excuse me, 1/1 from our opponent. And it looks like they just don't have it right now. They're going to go to attacks, I believe. I'm going to take down our Karn, which we're pretty fine with. And even if they do top deck a 1/1 now, we're only just going to take 5 because we have we have the boat. We're going to be able to kill this Bone Crusher. And our opponent doesn't really have any responses here, so we'll pass back. And things are looking okay. We have a pretty decent board state. We got the boat down. We're still at 9. Okay, Questing Beast is scary, obviously. We're going to take 4 here. Going to go down 2/5, so Questing Beast, definitely a powerful card, and if they have something like Embercleave, we're pretty much going to be dead, so... Okay, top decking the Go for Throat's pretty good. I think that we played the Splicer here because it crews the boat. So we're pretty much going to go down to 3, which is obviously scary. But at the same time, we actually have answers for what our opponent's going to do, so I think we just hold up this Go for the Throat and then crew the Skyship to trade with the Lovestruck Beast, or maybe even the Questing Beast if we need to. Alright, so they do have the Mystic. Bit unfortunate. Go for the Throating the Mystic's definitely an option here. Can also just kill the Lovestruck Beast, making sure that we just don't really have anything too threatening, and then the boat can kill the Mystic on the Crackback. Let's see here. So can still kill that later. We want to kill the Questing Beast. Yeah, let's go ahead and we can shoot down the Questing Beast and then crew with the vehicle. Maybe we let them go to attacks first. Yeah, let's just go for the Throat this now. We'll go down to 3. But we can still trade with the Lovestruck Beast if need be. It's a lot better to do that. There is an argument for maybe just getting to untap, plussing the Karn, and then being able to shoot down the Elf, so then the Lovestruck can't attack, but that's also not a guarantee. I would rather just try to outright trade here. I mean, if they have a removal spell, they have a removal spell, they would have just used it. Unless, I mean, even if it's something like an Abrade, it would have just been able to kill the Displacer anyways, so... Let's crew the Skyship. Make the block here on the Lovestruck, and our opponent only has 1 card left. We're at 3, but... you know, we're top decking the land. We're pretty close to kind of just taking over this game. Okay, Thought-Knot Seer is actually great. We get to look at our opponent's hand and see what they have left. And let's see what it is. And yep, going to take that Flame Blast Bolt. We can take a point. Obviously, it's risky because of Bone Crusher. So, if they draw like a Bone Crusher, we obviously just outright lose this game right now. But it looks like they didn't. We can just cast the Karn and maybe start gaining some life. But able to take that match down. Let's see how our next one goes. Maybe we can get to Platinum. Looking for the latest comic book to add to your collection? How about the last card for that Magic the Gathering Commander deck? Well, the comic book store's got you covered. Shop online at comicbookstore.tcgplayerpro.com or come in person at 30 North Main Street, Glassboro, New Jersey. Pizza people, are you enjoying the content? Don't forget, subscribe to the channel. It's free. Hit that bell icon as well. That way, anytime any of our new content comes out, you're able to see it right away. Hey, leave a comment down below as well. Tell us what you're going to play in the next event, or tell us what you're enjoying about the video. Don't forget, check out the description too. We've got tons of great content down below, and on top of that, we're going to have our tournament schedule too. So get in on it. Hope to see you. Alright, got another match here with some Eldrazi. Got to take a mulligan. Our first hand wasn't really that great. And we'll go ahead and put that Ujin back as the most expensive card. Pretty awkward hand, but I don't think that we want to go down to 5 here. Especially considering we're on the play. Right, so our opponent doesn't really do anything. We have this Cave of Koilos. We're just going to play it. We could attack with Mutavault if we wanted to, but kind of okay holding it back in case they do something like a Swiss Spear. And our opponent's actually going to put something in the Foretell zone, so yeah, let's go and get this Displacer down. And then we have a Thought-Knot to follow it up with. Could end up being a Boros control deck. Maybe they just have a Doomscar. Okay, Strangle, that's fine. Missing a land drop for our opponent. Let's go and get this Thought-Knot Seer down. And looks like they're actually playing blue. I think we just take this Fateful Absence just because it's the only card that deals with our creatures now. We don't want them to get a redraw anyways. So let's get rid of that Fateful Absence. They can't cast most of their other cards. Scalds or the blue cards aren't happening anytime soon. And let's see. Yep, our opponent's just going to go ahead and concede this game, considering they didn't really have too much going on. We could get rid of these Go for the Throats. Not really many options though to bring in. I think I'm okay keeping them because we can shoot down our own creatures if need be against like Wandering Emperors, or we can even kill Shark tokens, Samurai tokens, so I kind of don't mind it. Obviously this hand's awkward, we'll mulligan that. Keep this 6. Put back the 8-drop Ugin. Seems kind of a little bit unnecessary in this matchup. Would like to keep it, but just a little bit greedy. I think we keep this. We have Elvish Mystic into Eldrazi Displacer, into Thought Knot Seer, which I think is what our lines of play are going to be here. Opponent starting off with a tap land. Let's get a Llanowar Waste down. Elvish Mystic turn 1, turn 2 Displacer here, hopefully. Okay, just a tap land, and they actually have the Strangle. And we hit a Go for the Throat, so it's definitely a card we can cast, but highly unlikely that they play a creature here. If they did, it'd just be dead. Alright, let's try to get this Displacer through a counterspell, maybe. And yep, it actually does resolve, and they don't have any plays yet, so really surprised that our opponent isn't doing anything yet, considering their control. Usually they're a lot more proactive here. Okay, so they're actually not just control. Looks like they're playing combo here with this Mutate card. Luckily for us, we actually have a removal spell here, so we're just going to go for the throat that. Opponent probably thinking that we got rid of our removal, but luckily we kept them in. Hit our opponent for 3, get him down to 16. And we have a Thought Knot Seer here to essentially get rid of any card that could end up being a problem, as long as it resolves. So it's coming for 3, see if they have a response. They don't yet. Let's cast this Matter Reshaper, kind of just try to bait out a counterspell. Either way, we get some more damage on the battlefield. Opponent does hit their 4th land. They have a Deafening Clarion, so it's going to kill our cards. Matter Reshaper is just going to put a land into play. And we have triple Thought Knot here, so let's start slamming those. No counterspell mana open. And they just have 3 Unsubstantiates, a Vadrock, and a Deafening Clarion. We're going to take that Vadrock and top deck a land. Come in for 4, see if they just unsubstantiate. Gonna try to cast another one of these Thought Knot Seers that just take one of those. I'm guessing they're just going to use it now, though. Maybe blinking the other Thought Knot as well. Okay, unsubstantiate. Opponent definitely thinking about it, but does not. They would have taken an extra point off their Darkar Waste. Okay. Adonto Vanguard seems kind of random. Not really sure what game plan their deck is doing here. And they're going to take the 4 as well. Let's go ahead and get this Thought Knot Seer down. It does resolve. And they just have a veto. That's not really going to do anything. We can just play around that. Let's take one of these unsubstantiates. Just because it can still bounce one of our Thought Knots or create a tempo play where they counter our spells. No creature lands here, but we're still able to take it down with this triple Thought Knot hand. You can definitely see the power of the deck. Unfortunately, our opponent wasn't really doing too much, but hey, we're able to get the platinum. And we're back for the post-game wrap. Those are definitely some fun games. We were able to get out of gold and into platinum with ABZAN Eldrazi, so definitely give this deck a shot. I think it's definitely going to be really good on the ladder. I think it definitely needs a little bit of some tuning, maybe some more in the mana base. Or like I said earlier, maybe adding some Ulamongs or another Ujin to kind of help give you something that essentially helps you go extra over the top of the opponent, considering you already have Karn, which a lot of the time that's just going to be enough to go over the top anyways. But tell me what you think about the deck in the comments down below. Don't forget, we got 3 free tournaments a month. All are free to play. We have January and February schedule down below in the description. Get a hold of this deck list. Definitely give it a shot. And I hope to see you in one of our tournaments.